think honestly how I would respond to that is I would say, I appreciate that you asked me that. That's exactly the right question to ask in an interview. And same thing. I'm probably an asshole sometimes because everybody is, but I try really hard not to be.
This is the Snarketing Podcast. For marketers by marketers. Talking to marketers with just a touch of snark. Now, here are your hosts, Valerie Vespa and Matt Wurst.
Sweet maple syrup. This is the Snarketing Podcast. We are in the midst of winter. It feels like we are in the Arctic. It has been the coldest winter in memory, but we are bringing you some warmth, some post-Valentine's Day leftover love. I'm Matt Wurst.
And I am Valerie Vespa.
And we are excited to virtually see each other and know that you are listening to us because we've got a great episode planned for you today. It's been a great start to the year with some great guests. We've got people pitching us. This is season 4. We're hitting our stride.
I think people are on to us. They're on to the fact that we have a very good network of guests on and that they want to be a part of it. And I appreciate that.
You know what? It's so fun being out in the wild and running into people who are either former guests or listeners. Like this is kind of become our brand in a way. And I wasn't expecting that to be the thing that people initially identify us as. But if I'm out and I'm not with you, people are like, "Oh, where's Val?" Like, "Oh, good to see you too."
We are like, it's not work, wife, and husband, but it is some sort of iteration
podcast
of that.
Partners.
Yeah, we are.
I was at the Givesley Responsible Media Summit last week, which was great. Right a block from New York, my New York City office.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Well, I was invited, so I can't be invited and then ask for someone else to be invited.
Okay, fair.
Like, oh, can I get a +1? I don't know if that's always appropriate. It's certain circumstances, but Givesley is all about responsible media, so I didn't want to ask too much because I feel like
you're trying to be responsible. Yeah,
exactly. But there was a lot of leftover food at the end, so I do feel like we wasted something. But I can't really complain about that. But we saw former guests there, Casey of Blaze Pizza fame. We saw Tracy from MasterCard, and when I say we, I mean me. But it was fun because everyone was like, "Where's Valerie?" So I'm glad that I can now pass along their heartfelt salutations to you virtually. But we'll have to find a time to bring all these people together again since you were not at CES. I don't think you're going to South by Southwest, are you?
I'm not. I feel like I'm out of the scene and it's not making me happy. I got to get back in.
Well, if you're not going to be seen, at least you're going to be heard on this podcast.
And maybe I'm just disappointed in America right now, or the United States of America. So
we're taking that hard right turn right now. Is that what you're doing with this conversation?
I am, and perhaps that's why we've chosen a guest that does not hail from the United States.
So we're actually doing a full U-turn and heading north to the Canadian tundras of well, not really. Where is she? Toronto? Yeah, that's not really the tundra.
But isn't she outside of? Oh no, she's in Toronto.
Yeah, or in the greater Toronto, Mississauga area, maybe. No, she's wonderful. We were introduced to her through a former colleague of mine. She is building on top of what is a very well established agency and network. Many of you probably know it as Labellium, but now they are Cosmo5. So we are going to learn why. What are the 5 points of Cosmo? I don't know. I don't even know if there are 5 points. We're gonna get into it. We didn't do any research. We never do. So instead, we're gonna ask good questions. That's it's sometimes better to be unprepared than prepared.
We learn while the audience learns,
That's there's something to be said for that. The kid who can walk into a test and just ace it without even studying, That's us. Except we're probably still reading it like a 4th grade level. So as long as we keep it basic, and we'll let Kristin Wozniak of Cosmo5 be our teacher today and your teacher on this episode of the Snarketing Podcast.
Up now on the Snarketing Podcast, Matt and Valerie sit down with Kristin Wozniak, Chief Growth and Data Officer at Cosmo5. She's one of Canada's top media leaders. After a pivotal turning point early in her career, Kristin began challenging one of corporate culture's biggest myths, that emotions don't belong at work. Now she's bringing that same philosophy into data, growth, and global transformation. This conversation explores what happens when intelligence meets empathy. Because maybe the future of marketing isn't colder. Maybe it's more human.
Hi, Kristin. Welcome to the Snarketing Podcast. Greetings from the United States of America. How's it going in Canada at the moment? Things good?
They might be going a little better than they are south of the border, although it's very snowy here today. There was a large snowstorm yesterday, and where I sit, I got to see someone cross-country skiing down my street. So very Canadian snowy moment for January.
But just in time for the Winter Olympics, where I feel like U.S. and Canada become rivals for the only time every 4 years.
That's it. The rest of time, best of friends always.
Yeah, well, it's been a little strained lately, but we'll get through that. But in the world of marketing, in the world of media, in the worlds that we all inhabit, we are all collaborators and allies to ensure that we're delivering, creating good work for our customers. So with that spirit, we'll get a little snarky together. I love the Canadian snark, so let's see if you can actually bring some of that like SCTV credibility.
Wow, no pressure. If you could just act like Catherine O'Hara, that'd be great.
I will be the Eugene Levy to your Catherine O'Hara if we can make that happen.
I think we just set a really unreasonable expectation for the rest of this.
Welcome. By the way, we do that every episode, and at some point that gap will get thinner.
Perfect.
No, so welcome and thank you for making some time on a snowy day when you can be out actually playing. You're inside playing with us, and we're grateful.
I'm happy to be here.
So your background is really compelling in a lot of ways, just from your agency leadership and the experiences and the brands that you've touched and the different ways in working. And we'll get into all that, because whether it's media, data, right, just leadership and growth in our industry, I would love to get your take on just kind of like putting a stake in the ground. Where are we right now in like this transformational moment from your perspective that like we can take and positively build off of? And what are you doing with your team to really grow and lead in new directions? Let's start off with an easy question.
Oh, okay. Just
3 parts.
Where are we in predict the future? And so a stamp on where we are right now. I mean, I think it's probably obvious to say everyone's in a bit of a sort of a blurry moment, or a little bit of a sort of a transformative moment. I feel like with everything being a little sort of bumpy out there, that bumpiness obviously has to reflect a little bit about how we're feeling in here. I do think that there's starting 2026, there's always that sort of new year refresh. And even if I think fundamentally the year hasn't kicked off with the same level of positivity and go-getterness we all kind of wanted, I do feel like there's a stamp on this moment of, okay, it's now on us to make things positive and to create some good momentum. I'm feeling this sort of sense of like, we have some agency here in this industry. Let's take the reins and do something good going into 2026. And whether that's about creativity or whether that's about innovation or whether it's just about kindness and compassion, I think there is this sort of moment where we're all going, to your point, like, let's rally together and be part of the same industry and do something cool. Because I think we kind of have to, in terms of, where my focus is, leadership, obviously empathy, and I have not surprisingly big opinions about data.
Well, and as someone who grew up on the insights path into the leadership role, you're building on that data. But I feel like so much of that kind of gets reset at a macro level annually because of just the way cycles work, but also because of just the new ways in which brands, customers, clients, publishers, you name it, are able to access it quickly, but kind of move on it even quicker.
So on my hot take for this year, and I don't know how much my colleagues or boss will appreciate the hot take, is going into 2026. If I'm honest, I'm kind of over data, and I think in some ways we all
data. All right,
we're in the kind of need to be over it. Well, I don't know if we're in the post data era. I think I'm over. I think I'm over the obsession with it. I think our obsession's gotten a little bit too deep, and I think we're starting to lose our way a little bit because of it, if I'm honest. As a data person, I know that's like, you're not supposed to say that, but here I am.
Yeah, I know. I do feel like a pendulum always kind of swings the other direction.
Well, and it's not that it's not important. It's just,
of course,
emphasis and how it can be leveraged or how we're using it. Right? Like, I get it. I love this. Okay. So then with that in mind, how are you talking to your partners, your customers, or your team about how to make better decisions moving forward?
Yeah. So this is years ago, I had a client say to me, I was having a conversation about data, and I said, what decisions are you trying to make? Like, help me understand what you want to use the data for. And they were like, I don't know, just tell me what the data says and I'll do that. And I was like, here's the truth. The data doesn't say anything. I say things. So this is sort of where I can make the data say whatever I want. And that's true of anybody who works in data. And so one of my biggest pet peeves is sort of the source of truth thinking, because all data can be a source of truth. It can all be correct. It can all be wrong. It can point you in a million different directions. So I really want to get more towards the idea of less about data as a source of truth and more about data as a voice at the table. And I say this to my team all the time. You have dashboards, you have lots of information coming at you from all different places. And instead of thinking of it as sort of the silver bullet, the thing that tells you what to do, think of it as data being an individual at the boardroom table, and when everyone's brainstorming about strategies for 2026 or whatever it is, you get an opinion from everybody around the room. Well, you want data's opinion too, but it's just one POV, right? There's so many different reasons to make decisions, and data shouldn't be the thing that you sort of go, well, we did it because the data said. It's an easy out, and it can often direct you in weird places. So I really keep talking to my clients and my team about data's one voice at the table. And yes, you should hear the voice, hear what it has to say, and then you get to decide how relevant and important it is in that moment.
Is it so from a data perspective then, or maybe even a human perspective, have we pivoted maybe a little bit too much where we're not actually, or like the way we work isn't actually designed for humans?
I don't think the way we work is designed for humans at all. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday. I mean, just now you were saying, you had a big meeting this morning, and I'm thinking about, the agency world 10 years ago. And this isn't me reminiscing and going like, oh, back in the day. This is me just making a comparison. There used to be a world in which you'd have a big meeting, and after the meeting, the team would get together and go have lunch together or a coffee together to celebrate the meeting, take a minute to decompress and breathe. And instead, we close one meeting, immediately jump into another. And that alone is not a very human focused way of existing. And yeah, I'm doing it from my house in sweatpants, and that part I appreciate. But the other side is those moments to breathe, those moments to reflect have disappeared. And that, I think, echoes all the way through to the way we make decisions. We've so overemphasized data in terms of providing us the direction, like the way to go, that we've forgotten that our experience, our conversations with people, our views in terms of what's worked in the past and what hasn't, that all contributes to making good decisions. And we've so de-emphasized that human touch that the work is showing it, like that creativity, that emotional sort of intelligence. It's coming through in what we're seeing in the market. It's not there because we're just focusing on ROAS or CPMs or whatever, and that's a miss.
Yeah, there's a convergence of like personal and professional that in some ways I feel like has been very beneficial for many of us, and in other ways has blurred the lines in ways that we don't have the discipline or training or background to actually bifurcate again, and we may need to get back to that. I don't know.
I mean,
You know
how do we solve for it? I mean, unless it's at scale that everyone decides this is what we need to be doing more of.
Sorry, I just need to say that that's the third time this week someone's used the word bifurcate to me, and I don't even know why that's happened. That's not a word you hear very often, but that's the third time this week.
Well, that's because there was a big meeting before this that I was in, and we all talked about how we're going to use the word bifurcate in meetings moving forward.
Love this.
You do like that word, Matt. I've definitely heard you use that more.
There are times I use it and times I don't, so it's kind of split down the middle.
So ridiculous.
My mom's favorite word is obfuscate, and she used to use it all the time. So I remember like being in my early 20s and pulling out the word obfuscate and feeling like really good about myself. Like, I know that
clear
word.
On when to use that one.
Yeah, I know.
That was a solid dad joke. I liked it.
Very, very good.
I am using my dad joke mug today, so it's important that we bring that humor here. Sorry, I totally got distracted.
No, Valerie, you're in charge of bringing us back, right? Isn't that your job here? How do we do that?
I'll try. Yeah. No. So let's pivot a little bit to the corporate America model or the corporate North America model. What about traditional corporate model has like stopped working for you, particularly like after starting a family?
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I mean, I it's on my bio on LinkedIn. It's entirely possible, Matt, that you went and read this already. But for me, the having a kid moment changed everything. And not to like dive into the too personal too fast, but like, wow, did having a kid break me? I had no idea. Like any new parent does, you have no idea what you're in for until that kid is there, and suddenly,
Completely.
you think you have a good handle on anything, and you realize that literally nothing about anything. And tackling that is really tricky. And I think that that's a moment when sort of everything either comes together in your life or fully breaks. And for me, it was the fully break piece. I think though, in a productive way, like sometimes those breaking moments are really great to give you a sense of what you really value and how you want to operate. Having that kid moment for me made me realize that my values and the way in which I need to show up every day needs to exist in my home, but also needs to exist in my workplace. And if I can't show up as me in the place that I work, I'm not going to do my best work. I'm not going to be happy. So I had to take a moment and say to myself, like, what do I really value? How do I feel like I'm my best self showing up every day? What do I need to be that person? And I decided to unapologetically talk about it, and just bring it to work. And that changed my entire corporate existence. So instead of trying to be the thing the corporation wanted, I started to be the thing that I knew I was best at, and finding places to work where I could be that person. And
so was this a single moment though, or was this something that like maybe there was an epiphany, but it took you time to reorganize, think about, and then kind of position back out into the world?
I mean, I can think of single moments where I'm like, oh, that was a moment where something clicked in my brain. But the truth is, it takes time to sort of come to those realizations and whatnot. My biggest change was my neighbor was working with a professional coach, which I'd never really done before. Yeah. Big fan of therapy, but professional coach is different. And I remember her sort of saying to me, like, I think people forget that they can interview the companies that they work at too. Like a job interview isn't just about you impressing them, but you have a moment to ask yourself, like, you can interview them too to see if they're the right fit for you. That was like a revelation for me as a young woman in the industry. Like you just, especially as a woman, like you're always thinking you have to show up and be the best version of what they want because there's so many hurdles. So that moment was like huge in my brain. And it was like, I had to sit down, and she made me write down, what are the values that the company needs to bring to you for you to be successful there? Mind blowing. I had no idea that was a thing that I could do or ask about. In my current job now, I was joking with my boss yesterday, and my very first interview with him, and I look back on it, I'm like, my God, I need to shut my mouth sometimes. In my first interview with him, I asked him, I'm like, I'm really overworking with assholes. Are you an asshole? Literally, I asked in my interview.
I mean,
But
it's good
love
to
it.
get that out of the way, because depending on how he reacts to that tells you everything you need to know about the next 10 years of your career.
right. And, and I work there now. And sort of there's this element of like, why not just say the thing? And I think that our corporate North America would be far better off if we all just took a breath and sometimes said the thing. Do you know what I mean?
I,
Like, can we just say it?
I wonder how would each of you guys answer that question if someone asked you that? What would you say?
are you an asshole?
Yeah.
I would so confidently say that no, I am not, and I know exactly who you're referencing, and that is not me, because I've definitely dealt with a ton of them.
I'm not accusing or saying anything. I think that's such a provocative but important question that the
So
way
good.
you answer it is like everyone's defensive reaction would probably be no, but I think mine is probably like sometimes, but not intentionally. And if so, I hope you'd call me out on it. I don't know.
I can't even imagine you being an asshole.
Well, I appreciate that, but we still have we have ways to get into this conversation where I could probably show you. So, Kristin, no one's ever asked you that, I'm guessing, right? Because I can't imagine they'd even think you are.
My kids bought me a mug for Christmas last year.
You have mugs, by the way.
I do. I have a lot of mugs. I don't know what happened. I'm not a mug person, but somehow people keep buying me mugs, and so now it's a thing. But my kids bought me a mug that said, I Googled my symptoms and turns out I'm a bitch. So I think, and I use that mug a lot. So I think the mug might answer for me. If I'm
and your kids are how old? Like 5 and 6?
No, they're 13 and 11.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I think everything, it's a reaction. I think honestly how I would respond to that is I would say, I appreciate that you asked me that. That's exactly the right question to ask in an interview. And same thing. I'm probably an asshole sometimes because everybody is, but I try really hard not to be. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. Like, I'm sure that, I've had my asshole moments, but I think that the fact that if the conversation at the job interview doesn't end at that exact moment, the person's not an asshole. Because I'd imagine an asshole would be like, okay, thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, exactly.
We're done now.
So also like talking about corporate, I've spent so many years in that environment. So like challenging the idea that emotions don't belong at work. Like, talk about that, your feeling on that, and how you try and kind of alter that by leading in your environment today.
So I don't know how you guys totally feel about swearing on the podcast,
but I'd say
pro. I mean, it's bullshit. I mean, the idea that you can keep emotions out of the workplace is truly comical. It's one of my favorite things people say about data teams. They're like, well, if there's any team in the organization that's, objective and doesn't have a lot of emotions, it's a data team. And I'm like, wow, you do not know data people at all, because we got big feelings. I think that especially now that so many of us are working from home, like, you're sitting with me in my house. And so the idea that I don't bring something that happens here to this environment here is truly ridiculous. I also think it doesn't mean there's a difference between emotions and all your personal business, meaning I don't need to tell you everything that's happening in my day to day. And in fact, that might be too far. But if I show up and say, hey guys, I've had a bad night, I'm showing up today, and my best version of myself today is 80%. And I appreciate a little bit of kindness today, or my best today is 50%. And you guys go, you know what? Cool. Because I know another day your best is 120%. And just putting that out there, suddenly the conversation changes. There's a little bit of empathy, there's kindness, there's going, you know what? Maybe this meeting can happen tomorrow morning. It doesn't have to happen today at 5 o'clock or whatever. So there's a difference between all your personal business and your emotions. I think we're all human, and the idea that we can somehow put up this wall and not be ourselves in this corporate environment is truly comical, and it creates massively crazy expectations. It creates burnout. It creates a total lack of kindness and empathy, which is truly the thing that we need right now more than ever. It's sort of this notion that it's like, I don't need to know about your life. Like, no, you don't. But you do need to know about me. And those are different things.
And I feel like a lot of that happens like with leadership too. It has to start there,
Completely.
Well, that's why I love that you've grown up in a world of insights and data, but really lead with empathy, and hopefully you're not burning yourself out. But I'm kind of hearkening back to people with whom I've worked who've also grown in that foundational specialty or discipline, whether agency side, brand side, doesn't matter. But there's a pattern there where sometimes you guys are the most empathetic people. So how do you reconcile that in your head? Like, where does human judgment show up in modern analytics?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like that. So one of my one of the standards in marketing is, you develop those segmentations and those personas. Obviously, this is sort of just standard. So a brand wants 5 segments or 5 personas, and then
You're
some
putting us in
people
boxes. Yep.
right,
Go.
put us in a box. Great. And I think about what that does. When you put us in boxes, absolutely, it's super helpful in a million different ways. Like, what are some of the basics? How do I truly understand where they are? From a targeting perspective, you need those sorts of things. What those boxes miss, though, is the individual nuances of the people within them. Those boxes are meant to aggregate. That's the whole point. You sort of put everyone together and sort of paint everybody with the same brush, so there's a common thread. But, I'm a mom in her 40s with 2 kids, and there's certain things that are specific to me that might not be relevant to another mom in her 40s with 2 kids. And if you talk to us both with the same voice, that voice is going to feel very inauthentic and generic. And, so the data has gone so far in this way that it's like, well, we'll speak to the most people with this message because that optimizes reach, but actually it undermines connection. So for me, it's about, how do we think about, yes, you need to aggregate and understand, and then pause and go, what's the next layer deep here? Looking at all these traits or these qualities, put them together. What are those actually telling us about this person? There's always nuances in there, but it takes a minute to think about it, and it's time, it's reflection, and that's some of the stuff that's missing. The empathy has to live in the data for it to be truly effective. Otherwise, you're just optimizing towards performance metrics.
So would you say, like, your solutions to having this, like, everyone be so focused on data is to add empathy into it, right? And so create those levers in all the methodology to sort of account for that. How does AI play into that as well? Can you share some of the ways that that's being integrated?
Yeah. I mean, AI is so funny. My husband has a thing that he says that I quite like, which is AI is a super wonderful and helpful tool as long as you don't truly care about the outcome. And what I mean by that is, if you're going into AI and asking a super serious question, like, something about, say, your health, if it's, should I go get a biopsy on this thing? You really care about the answer to that. If AI gets that wrong, you're in trouble. So you should not rely on AI exclusively for that answer. That is the wrong place. If you want some advice on how to have a conversation with a friend about maybe an altercation you had or something you disagree on, sure, use AI for some great answers. But if it's truly life or death, AI is not the place. That said, thinking about data as a voice at the table, AI should absolutely has a voice at the table. It's just, it shouldn't be the only voice at the table. So I've been playing a lot with multi-agent AI right now, which really does change the game when it comes to the AI conversation, because multi-agent AI, when done well, is meant to represent multiple voices versus single agent AI, which is an aggregation of all the voices. So you get some nuances in agentic AI that are really cool, but I think we're still just we're figuring it out, and we have to figure it out by playing with it. I don't know if that answers your question, or if I rambled a whole bunch there, but probably a little bit of both.
I love it.
No, I mean, a key insight that I will take away from that is, don't treat AI as life or death, which is interesting because AI is neither living nor can it die. So that in and of itself is an existential requirement. The danger of, and we're all living in a multi-agentic world now, but if we're aggregating all of these insights and inputs and we're all getting the same outputs, then to your point, you're a mom with 2 kids and I am married to a mom with 2 kids. And if you talk to both of you the same way, you're all Amazon basics that way. You're all just batteries.
Yep. We're all Amazon basics.
And that That is the threat. But I think that's where everyone's like, oh, well, what role do agencies play? I have opinions, but now I want to ask you, now a leader in this space, right? You joined Libellium. I think most people listening will know what Libellium is in some ways, or will have worked with someone who worked there at some point. But as you become Cosmo5, that's not just, it's not agencies broadly, but even this isn't just a rebrand. I don't think. I think we're all figuring out what and where we should be positioned.
Mm-hmm.
What's fundamentally changed in that, just within your organization, besides just a name, if anything?
Of course. I mean, look, we've all been through rebrands and mergers and all these things in the agency world. I was at MEC when MEC merged with Maxis back in the day and became Wavemaker. That was a day. If I remember correctly.
CML, YNR, ABC, BBD, the East Coast family, right?
Right. I don't know. Like those law firms, eventually you've got so many names in the door. Anyway, I think one of my favorite things about this particular evolution from Libellium to Cosmo5 is part of the brand promise now is around 5 intelligences. As you may have gathered, I'm a big fan of thinking about things from multiple angles. Everyone's so obsessively talking about AI, and we have to. But again, if we talk about AI over and over and over and over and over again, we're forgetting about a whole bunch of other really important conversations we have to be having too, because there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's still going on that we have to pay attention to, that if we don't, we're completely missing the boat. So within this Cosmo5 sort of rebrand, we've brought in 5 intelligences, and artificial intelligence is one of them, but operational, strategic, emotional, and ethical are the other intelligences that round out that promise. And so for me, that's so important because AI is a voice at the table, but we need to, like, operational intelligence is how do we work closely together? How do we streamline things? Not just focusing on efficiency and effectiveness, but like, how do we just really show up as a team and collaborate? Emotional intelligence, that's thinking about the message in a different way. That's talking to 2 moms with a different message or a different voice, or even just recognizing the nuances within that voice. The ethical intelligence to me is so important right now, with so many companies killing their DEI mandates and really walking away from things like sustainability and, quite frankly, just the basics of trust. Ethical intelligence baked into our promise means so much. And I have to tell you, in the midst of the rebrand, meant so much to my team and the teams here in Canada specifically, to see that come through. It's like, I love working for a company where they're putting that stamp on the brand in the midst of chaos to say this matters. That to me is the crux of the rebrand and what makes it so exciting.
Okay, listen for me again. It's artificial, emotional, operational,
strategic.
I'm not intelligent enough to remember. Sorry. Okay.
Artificial, operational, strategic. Sorry, I got it wrong now. Artificial, operational, strategic, emotional, and ethical.
Ethical. So I always forget about that one.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Everyone forgets about it, but it's actually pretty important, especially if we talk about empathy and things like that. I mean, ethical intelligence is part of how we build a team, how we show up, what we value, what we make time for, not just with our clients and our teams, but actually with our consumers, with the work we do, all that kind of stuff.
And so Cosmo5 is all about order over chaos. So what chaos are brands most overwhelmed by right now that you are addressing with them?
So we have like another 24 hours for this podcast, right? Like, what chaos? I mean, what chaos are we not encountering right now? Genuinely, I'm trying to think of what are the things that feel stable right now? And I can't actually think of anything between economic uncertainty all over the place, which impacts, of course, product availability and margins and just all the things that go along with that. I don't even want to start to list it. Between then turmoil in terms of teams and how we think about each other, challenging the value of individual people, how we talk to them, and even the conversation around targeting is massive. I hate the word targeting to start off with, just because it's so aggressive and shitty. But who do we talk to? How can we talk to them? You've got everything from which positions at a company are valued, which ones are getting nixed, what conversations are you allowed to have or not. which teams can you leverage globally, which ones can you not, everything is chaotic. But I would say it still consistently points to the same conversation I think we've been having in the industry for years, which is all of that still results in everyone get through the chaos, please, and drive short-term results. Right. That's still the conversation, unfortunately. Right. But I think a lot of the chaos, what it's resulted in for me and what I'm seeing with the clients is the higher the chaos, the lower tolerance for risk. And that means safe campaigns. That means data-driven spending. That means lower innovation, because if things go wrong, you can say, well, I did this because the data told me to, and that sort of mitigates the fear. So I think trying to create some calm and some space and some safety and making creative decisions is part of creating order of that chaos.
You don't like the word target. I don't like the word transformation. I don't know. Something when you said that, it like triggered for me. So it feels like every time there's chaos, there's uncertainty. We have to. It's time for transformation. But
fair.
Why do we think so many transformation efforts or initiatives fail before they can actually create change? Is it because it takes too long, or is it because transformation really is impossible because change will always be faster than the ability to transform?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I agree with the word transformation. Also, disruption. Can we throw that in there? Yeah. Bold is a word that I hate. I moderated a panel in the fall, and so I take no credit for this answer. I asked the question, and one of the panelists answered it, and I thought it was such a good freaking answer. I asked the panel, what advice do you give to clients in terms of thinking about how to use AI? Like, what's the number one? If someone who's starting a small business comes to you and says, I want to integrate AI into my business, what's the first piece of advice you'd give them? And one person on the panel said, the first question I tell them to ask is AI really the right solution here? My husband says, don't use a $500 solution to solve a $5 problem. I think as an industry, we are really good at $500 solutions to $5 problems. And for me, that's part of the reason why our transformation efforts don't get off the ground. I think sometimes we talk about transformation to make this big, huge, bold story and look like we're doing something cool in the industry, and forgetting that sometimes the answers are simple, but those simple answers aren't sexy. They don't make a splash, right?
Everything market, right? Yeah.
Well, kind of sometimes. I think so. We make these big transformation efforts without really knowing why we're doing it. We just know we need to transform and put out a big thing that says that we're transforming, instead of just saying what's the thing we actually need to fix? What is it? Are there 3 little small things that we can do that'll actually make a big difference? But they don't make headlines. They don't feel important. And sometimes even still, the results of those 3 small things don't show up in the data, so we don't do them, but actually they show up in other places. That's my take. I think we transform for the sake of transforming.
I love it. I love that. It's for the press release. So your title as Chief Growth and Data Officer, how has your definition of both growth and data evolved?
I mean,
touched upon data a bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Growth for me is so much. I mean, growth still has the connotation of revenue growth always, but growth is about evolution. And I'm not going to use the word transformation because it's not that. It's growing upon what you've built and thinking about how you keep the things that are working and lean into them and learn from them and make them better and greater and more fantastic. And also, growth is knowing the stuff that doesn't work and being willing to say goodbye to it. And that's true from a business perspective. That's true from a personal growth perspective, from a team perspective. So how are you smart enough to say, this was not for me, and then put it over here, and then know this is the stuff that we're doing really great. Let's make it awesome. That's the sort of more human version of growth, I guess. Matt, you have a face. I don't know what that face means.
I'm still fixated on the intelligences.
Okay.
And I don't want to go too deep into this because I want to make sure we have time for our lightning round. But
oh God, okay.
If you're a brand and you're struggling amidst all this chaos, and you're now looking to brilliant leaders and partners for guidance and focus. That may be the right word, but you still can't like back out, right? There's a FOMO that every brand, every marketer has. So is there a line between intelligence and maybe like over engineering that and creating intrusiveness?
What do you mean? Like we're inserting ourselves in areas we don't need to be?
Yeah, like are we overthinking this?
Oh, probably. Yes, but I think we overthink everything. I think, I mean, in some ways, the intelligences to me are permission to have different conversations.
Okay, so that's a great prioritized set of use cases then, and knowing where and when to apply different intelligences for input, and in certain cases, distribution or whatever the specific outcome that we're driving towards needs to arrive at.
I don't
Yeah.
even think I like the word overthinking.
Well, you're overthinking it, I think.
We have real issues with the English language today.
Should we go back to French? I don't know.
Obfuscate. Transformation.
Valerie and I were speaking Spanish a few episodes ago. I'm not really sure how that happened.
You started it, of course.
That's verdad. It's true. Okay, so we don't want to overthink this too much or over-engineer this conversation any more than we already have, but I think this has been really a delightful journey across and into your brain, but also I think just how that will manifest in the days, weeks, and months and years to come, because those 5 points are really like, God, I'm totally like changing the way I think now because of that.
Right, it's kind of cool.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
like it's
it.
okay to have an emotional conversation in the context of business. Like that matters.
Yeah, I think so. And sometimes we get too emotional, and
Sure.
we need to understand where those guardrails that we've put in previously still somewhat apply, right? We're not breaking down every wall. So, okay, so let's turn that topic into the first question of the lightning round, because we're going to go a little bit impromptu here, but of the 5 intelligences, I want to play one of my old-time favorite games, which we won't call Fuck, Marry, or Kill in this case.
Oh,
We'll call Date, Marry, or Kill. Do you ever play that game? Do you remember that? You know what it is?
I remember. Yes, I do. I do.
Okay, so of the 5 intelligences, let's pick 3 that you would date, marry, or kill.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, okay. What a
she can't
weird
kill.
positioning.
I know.
Okay, so
That's why it's the hot seat.
I'm going to come at this from me, Kristin, in terms of the places where I feel happiest working and the places that like I'm just like, ugh. So I kill operational intelligence because it's just not my vibe. Anyone who knows me is like, process stuff makes me crazy. Like I rant about timesheets more than any human being in the history of the world. So operational intelligence and we are not hanging out. This is why I have people around me who are really good at it to keep me in check. And I love that. We all create a unified group together. So operational intelligence gets killed. I think, dated. I think it has to be marry, fuck, kill though. I can't, because date and marry is too close. I think that if I'm having a one night stand, it's with artificial intelligence. You know, like let's see,
a wild night.
Let's see what you got. Let's go. And then the person I'm marrying, I think, is emotional intelligence.
Emotional. Oh my God.
Yeah, you have to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Come on.
I'm with you.
There's no wrong answers, but that was the right answer.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Your gut or data, which do you trust first?
Oh, that's like a lifelong therapy journey right there. I think as a human, I gotta say my gut. And I say that because I also read data, you read information, you stay informed, and at the end of the day, you put it all together and it tells you something. I also know in my life, every time I've not trusted my gut, it's gone poorly. You know, so I think You can call my ex-husband if you want. He and I can have a conversation about that. And I say that
FMK with him, I promise you.
No, I say that with love and affection. No. He would happily have that conversation with you. I think that gut is important, but it doesn't mean you ignore the data. You read the data, you look at a whole bunch of different stuff, but fundamentally, I still think your gut tells you a lot of which way you need to go.
What's a leadership trait that you think we overemphasize or over-celebrate?
Entrepreneurialism.
Going out there on a limb. I like it.
Yeah, I like that.
Nice. Okay, good. One answer. What's one thing Canadian leaders do better than American leaders?
Humility.
That's the wrong answer. No, I'm kidding. I'm positive that's the wrong.
No, I gotta explain it a little bit.
Okay, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
You go back to the SCTV thing. One of the things that Canadians kind of the way, like Canada's a really cool place in that we are unified, but we're often unified around the negatives more than we are the positives. What I mean by that is, like, if we think about what happened last year, the number one thing that unites Canadians is we're not Americans. That is the number one thing that unites us, which is why last year sort of played out the way that it did. And within that, there's a million different things. But one of the other things that unites Canadians is self-deprecation. Like SCTV, making fun of yourself is part of Canadian culture. We love it. And so I think that kind of leads into the leaderships most of the time too. Like, a lot of the leaders who I work with are willing to at least sort of, do karaoke on stage with their team and look really stupid. And that's part that creates something that's special. I see less of that typically when I work with American teams.
I mean, you've sold me, and everything that you've said, for all the reasons.
Are we moving?
And more. Yeah, I think we may have to. Which leads me to then, I guess, the next question. Are all Canadian workplaces just like they appear in Heated Rivalry?
Obviously, of course, yes. Yeah, obviously, 100%. That is where we model. That's part of our HR training now. We put it in, of course. I will say I laugh a little, though, because I work on a global team, and I live in a hardcore hockey household. So, like, I could have taken this call from another place in my house, and there'd be hockey sticks on the wall or like autograph pictures. My son plays hockey. My dad's a hockey writer. Like, I live in the hockey space. So as much as I'm joking, and it's like, are they all like Heated Rivalry? Maybe not quite, but not far off.
I mean, I think that's what's so fascinating, is that it actually resonates with so many people.
I know.
It's taken the world by storm. Certainly my household. I was trying to talk to my wife last night, and she basically shushed me until the episode was over.
That's the correct answer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think your answer here is the correct answer too, which is yet another reason in favor of why we should be moving. So just to wrap up on sort of a upbeat, futuristic, positive way to think about how we move forward, as you think about your team, your company, your partners and customers, clients, the end consumer, what gives you hope about like where marketing is headed?
I think the conversations, it's the in between, and it's the sort of thing that I keep saying to my teams and to my colleagues. And I'm going to sound real nerdy for a second, so just bear with me on this while I take you on a journey to make a point. When it comes to machine learning, there's sort of two ways to think about it. There's exploitative learning and explorative learning. And exploitative learning is you sort of have a bubble, a defined territory, and you stay in that territory and you try to learn everything about it. They become the most prime expert on this one thing and do it, optimize it, be like a leader on this space. And then explorative learning is sort of you send AI agents out to the universe to kind of just like wander. Until I'm not describing someone who's like an AI machine learning expert is listening to this definition and hating me right now. But the explorative learning is you kind of wander out into the wilderness and just walk until you run into something interesting. And that's how you define new territories. That's how products evolve. That's how things grow and learn. And you need a balance of exploitative and explorative learning to grow. And I think one of the things that's most encouraging to me is, for the first time in a while, I'm having conversations that lead more towards explorative learning than exploitative, which is, what's the white space in between the data points? Like, what are the things that we've been missing? Where have we over-focused? And those conversations, every lunch I have, every conference I go to, what's on stage is so still very based in exploitative learning. The conversations that are happening on the floor are really about explorative learning. And that to me is the exciting piece, because it's like it starts on the floor and then makes its way to the stage, you know?
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, what a framework. In some ways, it's almost like search versus discovery 2.0, right? You sometimes know what you're searching for, but if you know what you're searching for, you're limited already based on your existing knowledge or preconceived biases. Whereas discovery is walking out into
Endless.
the wilderness, hoping not to get eaten by a bear.
Yeah. And sometimes you are going to get eaten by a bear, especially in Canada. It happens. No, I'm teasing. It doesn't happen very much.
I was all set to move until that.
No, I'm teasing. There aren't bears on every corner. But there is something about that. You have to be willing to know that you can wander for a long time before you hit something cool. And sometimes you might never, but the journey is still important, not to sound too cliche, but yeah.
I'm just disappointed that it took us 60 episodes to wander into a conversation with you, because I feel like had we done this 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we wouldn't have needed to talk to anyone else ever again.
Oh.
We just solved it all.
I know, right? We're done. Knock it out, guys. We're finished. That's a wrap. And let's talk again.
This was lovely.
We would love to. This was I mean, I think you brought a sixth layer of intelligence, which is, I think, we still to be determined and defined, but I feel even more knowledgeable about so many topics now, thanks to this 45 minutes or so of wisdom. So thank you for the generosity of your time.
Of course.
And yeah, wherever you're out discovering at those conferences and walking the halls, I hope I run into you.
Sounds like a plan.
You know,
that's one of those things that we could wait for to happen accidentally, or we could orchestrate that a little bit too.
Let's make it happen.
I love that.
All right.
Sounds great.
That was Kristin Wozniak, Chief Growth and Data Officer at Cosmo5, challenging how you think about leadership, data, and performance. Share it with someone building the future of marketing. We'll see you next time on the Snarketing Podcast.